the rain and the ring. The downpour over Seoul was relentless, but inside the glass penthouse, the cold was far worse. Amara stood frozen at the threshold of her husband's private office. In her trembling hands, she held a ribbon-tied box, a home-cooked Nigerian meal and a handwritten letter marking their third wedding anniversary. The box shattered against the hardwood floor. Min-Jae, the feared Korean syndicate boss, a man whose name made rival gangs bow, was slouched in his leather chair. His shirt was unbuttoned, his tie undone. Wrapped tightly in his lap, her face buried against his neck, was his secretary Soo-jin. Soo-jin looked up, her lips curving into a subtle victorious sneer. Min-Jae's eyes opened heavily, glazed and distant, staring right through his wife. Amara didn't scream. She didn't hurl insults. Hot, quiet tears burned down her dark cheeks, cutting through the heavy silence. "I did everything for you." Amara's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. "I left my home, my family, my entire life, and this is how you repay me." Min-Jae didn't move. He didn't speak. With shaking fingers, Amara pulled off her diamond wedding ring, set it gently on the edge of his mahogany desk, and turned her back on him forever. 30 seconds later, the office doors burst open. Chairman Kang, Min-Jae's grandfather, walked in, taking in the scene of shattered glass, the ring and Soo-jin hastily fixing her clothes. The old man slammed his cane onto the floor, looking at his grandson with pure grief. "You absolute fool. Today you just lost the only woman who ever loved you for your soul, not your title." Before we reveal what happened next, if you love deep, emotional Afro-Korean romance stories filled with unexpected twists, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us where you are watching from. 3 years earlier, Amara was just a fiercely independent Nigerian master's student living in Seoul, completely unbothered by status or money. They had met on a freezing November night in a small side street diner. Min-Jae had stumbled inside, bleeding from a knife wound beneath his dark coat after surviving an ambush. He was living as two men, a ruthless underworld heir and a tired human being. Amara hadn't cowered in fear. She hadn't asked questions. She had simply pulled out her emergency medical kit, cleaned his wound with gentle hands, and pushed half her hot meal toward him. "Eat," she had said softly, looking directly into his dark eyes. Worrying on an empty stomach only invites death faster. For the first time in his life, a woman saw Min-Jae without fear or greed. She saw him. Their love had bloomed like wildfire in secret. Late-night street food dates, quiet walks under cherry blossom trees, long talks where she shared her dreams of launching an international trade firm, and he shared his dream of peace. "I live in darkness, Amara," Min-Jae had confessed one night, holding her face in his broad hands, his thumb gently stroking her cheek. "My family is dangerous. My world is blood." Amara had placed her hand over his. "Then let me be your light, Min-Jae. I don't care about your world. I care about your heart." When he proposed, he placed his grandmother's rare heirloom ring on her finger. But their fairy tale smashed headfirst into a wall of hatred. Min-Jae's mother, Madame Kang, openly despised Amara. At their wedding, while Chairman Kang welcomed Amara with open arms, Madame Kang leaned into her son's ear, her voice dripping with poison. "Enjoy your little charity project, Min-Jae. An African girl will never belong in this dynasty. This marriage won't last a year." For 2 years, Min-Jae was Amara's fortress. Whenever his mother insulted Amara's heritage, Min-Jae would cut off family ties for months, prioritizing his wife above everything. "You are my queen," Min-Jae would whisper at night, pulling Amara tight against his chest, burying his face in her dark curls. "Nothing gets past me to hurt you." But power came with a heavy toll. A territory war broke out among rival cartels. Min-Jae was forced into 18-hour workdays. Stress pulled at his mind. Sleep became a distant memory. And that was when Soo-jin, his new personal secretary, placed strategically by Madame Kang, struck. Soo-jin didn't start with seduction. She started with control. She deleted Amara's text messages from Min-Jae's phone before he saw them. When Amara called the office, Soo-jin answered in a soft, familiar tone. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Kang." Soo-jin would lie smoothly. "Director Min-Jae is resting in his private quarters and asked not to be disturbed by anyone." Amara began to feel the air grow thin. She would cook his favorite meals, only to sit at a grand dining table alone, watching the food turn cold night after night. One evening, Amara visited his office unannounced. She found Min-Jae staring blankly at a wall, dark circles under his eyes. Min-Jae. Amara walked up behind him, wrapping her arms around his stiff shoulders. You haven't come home in 4 days. Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Min-Jae pulled away, rubbing his forehead aggressively. His voice was sharper than it had ever been. Amara, please. I am trying to keep hundreds of people alive right now. I don't have time to reassure your insecurities every night. Amara felt as if he had slapped her. She swallowed the lump in her throat, her voice trembling. I'm not asking for reassurance, Min-Jae. I'm asking for you. I am busy, he snapped, turning his back on her. Amara stood alone in the quiet office, the distance between them feeling wider than the ocean separating Seoul from Lagos. Emotional tension is rising. If you were in Amara's position, would you keep fighting for a husband who is slipping away? Or would you prepare your exit? Tell us in the comments right now. Sujin's obsession turned downright predatory. Seeing Min-Jae exhausted and vulnerable, she prepared her final blow. She intercepted a package that arrived at the estate for Min-Jae. A set of tiny baby socks Amara had bought after missing her period. Sujin threw the package straight into the incinerator. In its place, she forged a document hinting that Amara was secretly wiring money out of the country to return to Nigeria. When Min-Jae glanced at the forged file during a break, his exhausted mind spun. Why is she preparing to leave me? Does she not trust me anymore? She doesn't understand your world, Director, Sujin whispered, placing a soft hand on his shoulder as he leaned back, rubbing his temples. You carry the weight of the world, and she only brings you complaints. Enough, Sujin, Min-Jae growled, though the seed of doubt had been planted. The trap sprung on the night of the cartel victory gala. Min-Jae had secured the syndicate's safety, but his body was completely run down. In the VIP suite above his penthouse office, Sujin handed him a crystal glass filled with aged whiskey. To victory, Director. You deserve a moment of peace. Min-Jae downed the drink in one gulp. He didn't taste the colorless, tasteless liquid sedative mixed into the alcohol. Within 15 minutes, the room spun violently. His limbs felt like lead. His vision blurred, reducing the world to heavy shadows and muffled noise. Sujin. What is this? Min-Jae slurred, collapsing back onto the plush leather sofa. Shua. Just rest, Min-Jae, Sujin purred. She unbuttoned his shirt, loosened his tie, and climbed onto his lap, draping her arms around his neck just as the elevator chimed. Sujin had used Min-Jae's phone hours earlier to send Amara a single text. Come to the penthouse at midnight. Let's celebrate our anniversary. I miss you. Amara had arrived with hope blooming in her chest, carrying a homemade meal, wearing the red silk dress Min-Jae loved. She opened the private doors. The box of warm food slipped from her hands, crashing to the floor. Min-Jae lay there on the couch, his chest bare, his eyes half-lidded and heavy, while Sujin sat atop him, kissing his jawline. Through the fog of the drug, Min-Jae heard the shatter. He turned his head slowly, his heavy eyes meeting Amara's devastated gaze. He tried to speak, to push Sujin away, but his tongue felt paralyzed. Amara didn't scream. She didn't tear the room apart. A quiet, deadly stillness settled over her as tears poured down her dark skin. I did everything for you, Amara whispered, her voice cracking with a pain so deep it vibrated through the room. I left my country, my family, my dreams, and this is how you repay me. She slowly pulled the diamond wedding ring off her finger. She stepped forward, set it softly on the edge of his desk, and turned around. Amara! Min-Jae managed to croak, but his body betrayed him. He couldn't stand up. She walked away into the storm, leaving him in the dark. If you are holding your breath right now, hit that like button and type true love in the comments to show your support for Amara during her darkest hour. Amara walked through the pouring rain for miles, the icy water washing away her tears, but doing nothing to cool the fire burning in her chest. Near the Incheon bus terminal at 2 a.m., her knees gave out. The world went black. When Amara opened her eyes, the harsh white lights of a hospital room greeted her. An elderly female doctor was checking her monitor. Ah, you're awake, Mrs. Kang, the doctor said gently. You suffered severe shock and hypothermia, but fortunately, the baby is completely fine. Amara sat up sharply, her breath hitching. What? What did you say? The doctor smiled softly, handing her an ultrasound scan. You are 8 weeks pregnant. Your baby's heartbeat is strong. Amara clutched the paper to her chest. Fresh tears spilled over her cheeks. Not tears of heartbreak this time, but of fierce protective love. A child. Min-Jae's child. For 10 minutes she sobbed in the quiet room. She thought of calling him, thought of telling him. But then the image of Soo-jin in his arms flashed in her mind. No, Amara whispered to herself, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. My child will not grow up in a world of violence, side chicks, and poison. She signed her own discharge papers against medical advice. She blocked Min-Jae's number, deleted her social media accounts, and bought a one-way ticket back to Nigeria. 3 days later, Amara landed in Lagos. She relocated to a quiet coastal town in Ogun State, surrounded by loving family, green palm trees, and fresh ocean breezes. 7 months passed. In a small warm clinic, Amara gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Adana, her father's daughter. When Amara held the infant in her arms, her heart stopped for a second. Adana had her mother's rich brown skin and full lips, but when the baby opened her eyes, they were the exact intense dark almond eyes of Kang Min-Jae. Meanwhile, back in Seoul, Min-Jae had become a terrifying shell of a man. When the drugs had worn off that fateful night, Soo-jin had fed him lies. She left because she never really loved you, director. She took her ring and ran. Min-Jae had believed it in his pain. But without Amara, his soul was dead. He drank constantly, worked brutally, and lived in a mansion that felt like a cold tomb. The story is reaching its breaking point. Will Min-Jae ever discover the truth? Or is it too late for redemption? Share this video with your friends and stay tuned for the final part. 10 months after Amara vanished, Chairman Kang returned to Seoul from his medical retreat abroad. He didn't see a powerful syndicate leader in his grandson. He saw a dying man. Min-Jae was unkempt, reeking of expensive scotch, and allowing Soo-jin to handle key estate documents. The chairman's instincts fired. He immediately hired an independent, top-tier forensic team to investigate the night Amara left. 48 hours later, Chairman Kang slammed a thick black binder onto the boardroom table right in front of Min-Jae, interrupting a major board meeting. Open it, Min-Jae, the old man commanded, his voice cold as ice. Look at how easily a snake stripped you of your soul. Min-Jae opened the file with numb fingers. Inside were recovered high-definition security clips from the penthouse hallway, showing Soo-jin dragging Min-Jae's limp, barely conscious body into the suite. Next was a certified lab report from a private blood clinic, showing massive doses of a tasteless paralyzing agent in his system that night. Then came the final blow. Printouts of intercepted texts sent from Soo-jin's personal device, along with the incinerated package receipts showing Amara had bought baby clothes before she left. Min-Jae's hands began to shake violently. The color completely drained from his face. She was pregnant? Min-Jae gasped, his chest heaving as if he couldn't get oxygen. He turned his bloodshot eyes toward Soo-jin, who stood at the head of the table, turning ghost white. You drugged me? Min-Jae, listen to me. Soo-jin cried out, taking a frantic step back. She wasn't right for you. An outsider could never support your empire. I did it because I love you. A roar of pure, unadulterated agony tore from Min-Jae's throat. He launched himself forward, slamming his fists onto the heavy conference table, shattering the glass top into thousands of sharp fragments. Get her out of my sight before I bury her myself, he screamed, his voice cracking with unbearable grief. Guards surged into the room, pinning a sobbing Soo-jin to the floor before dragging her away to face charges of treason, drugging, and corporate extortion. Min-Jae fell to his knees amidst the broken glass, clutching his head, weeping so heavily his whole body shuddered. What have I done? He sobbed, pressing his forehead against the cold floor. What have I done to my wife? Chairman Kang stood over him, tears in his own eyes. You let pride and work blind you to the only woman who loved you without a price tag. Stand up, Min-Jae. Go find your wife or die trying. Min-Jae didn't just step down from the syndicate, he dismantled his role entirely, leaving the business to his grandfather's trusted counsel. For months he poured millions into searching for Amara. He flew to Lagos, walking through hot, crowded street markets, visiting universities, handing out photos, barely sleeping 2 hours a night. He grew thin, his expensive suits replaced by plain shirts, his arrogance completely burned away. Finally, a local doctor in Ogun State recognized Amara's photo from a medical outreach program. Min-Jae was given an address, a modest, colorful bungalow surrounded by blooming bougainvillea and tall palm trees near the coast. When Min-Jae stepped onto the quiet dirt path leading to the house, his heart hammered against his ribs. And then, he saw her. Amara was standing in the sunlit yard, wearing a vibrant Ankara wrap dress, holding a 10-month-old baby girl who was giggling as a gentle ocean breeze blew through her soft curls. Min-Jae froze. The baby turned her head toward the sound of footsteps, and Min-Jae stared directly into his own dark, almond-shaped eyes set in a beautiful brown face. Tears instantly blinded him. Amara turned, sensing a shadow. Her eyes locked onto Min-Jae. The silence between them stretched, thick with memory and pain. Min-Jae took 3 slow steps forward, and then without a word, the former Mafia boss dropped to both knees in the dust, bowing his head all the way to the ground before her. Amara! He choked out through heavy sobs, his hands digging into the dirt. I failed you. I was blind, arrogant, and weak. I don't ask you to take me back. I don't deserve your heart. But please, let me be a father to our child. Let me spend my life proving I am sorry. Amara looked down at the man who had once ruled Seoul's underworld, now weeping in the dirt at her feet. The anger she had carried for over a year slowly softened into profound, heavy sorrow. She walked over to him softly. Get up, Min-Jae. He stood, his face wet with tears, completely vulnerable. I left my world for you, Amara said, her voice steady but full of emotion. And you let your world destroy us. I know, Min-Jae whispered, pulling out a document showing Soo-jin's conviction, his mother's public apology, and the complete surrender of his underworld ties. I gave it all away, Amara. None of it meant anything without you. Amara looked into his eyes and saw no lies, no pride. Only a broken man truly reborn through repentance. Trust takes time to heal, Min-Jae, she said softly, stepping closer so he could see their daughter. You won't get my heart back in one day. But you can start by meeting your daughter, Adana. Min-Jae broke down again, gently reaching out to touch the baby's tiny hand. Adana wrapped her small fingers around his thumb, smiling brightly. Min-Jae didn't force a move back to Korea. He bought a home in Nigeria, living humbly nearby, showing up every single day to be a father, and to earn Amara's love through actions, not words. 2 years later, under the golden Lagos sunset, surrounded by family, including a humbled Madame Kang, who sincerely asked for Amara's forgiveness, Min-Jae and Amara renewed their wedding vows on the beach. As little Adana ran along the shore laughing, Min-Jae pulled Amara close, kissing her deeply under the twilight sky. True love requires more than just words and passion. It demands protection, open communication, and unwavering priority. Trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and a lifetime of dedicated action to heal. Never let external noise or career ambition cause you to neglect the one person who stood by you when you had nothing. What an unforgettable journey of betrayal, truth, and genuine redemption. If this story touched your heart today, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who believes in second chances. Now we want to hear from you in the comments. If you were in Amara's shoes, would you have given Min-Jae a second chance after seeing his true repentance? Or would you have walked away for good? Let us know below, and we'll see you in the next emotional story.